The silent approach, the alien scout ship Valari's Hope, moved slowly through the cold darkness of space. Its hull was black and smooth, built to hide from sensors. Inside, the crew worked in silence, their eyes fixed on glowing screens. They were far from their homeworld now, far beyond the safe lanes of the Galactic Council. They had crossed into forbidden territory, human space. The captain, a tall creature with thin silver scales, stood at the center of the bridge. His name was Kareth, and his hands gripped the rail so tightly his knuckles turned pale. Every alien in the galaxy had heard the stories. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and merciless to those who trespassed. Yet here they were, breaking the one rule everyone knew: no one enters human space uninvited. The first officer whispered, "Sir, sensors show nothing ahead." Her voice trembled. "No patrols, no signals. Not even the outer beacons." Kareth frowned. "That's what worries me," he said. If the humans weren't showing themselves, it meant they already knew the intruders were here. For hours, the Valari's Hope drifted forward. The void outside was endless, with only faint starlight breaking the darkness. The crew avoided looking at each other. They all remembered the rumors, ships that vanished after crossing this invisible border, fleets that never sent a single distress call. Some claimed the humans had weapons that could erase a ship from existence without leaving wreckage. Others said human warships hid inside the shadows, waiting like predators. Then suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Every sensor screen went black. The navigation display dissolved into static. The crew gasped, hands moving quickly over the controls. "It's not a malfunction," the engineer said, his voice tight. This is a signal block." Kareth's chest grew heavy. "They've seen us," he whispered. Outside the forward viewport, the stars began to fade, not because of clouds or dust, but because something enormous was blocking the light. At first, it looked like a planet, its massive shadow swallowing everything in sight. But then, edges moved, lines of metal catching faint starlight. The truth hit Kareth like a blow. It wasn't a planet, it was a ship. The Valari's Hope was a small vessel, barely 100 meters from bow to stern. The shadow outside was thousands of meters long. Its surface shimmered with faint blue lines running like veins across black armor. Weapons bristled from its flanks, each larger than the Valari's Hope itself. It moved without sound, without effort. It was as if the void had shaped itself into a predator. A burst of static filled the bridge. Then a deep, calm voice cut through it. "Speaking perfect galactic standard. Identify yourself." "You have 5 seconds." The crew froze. They had expected a patrol ship, maybe a warning broadcast from afar, but this was direct, cold, and immediate. Kareth swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "This is Captain Kareth of the vessel Valari's Hope. We come in peace." Silence. The human voice returned, sharper. "Now, you crossed into human space without clearance. That is a violation. You will explain why." Kareth glanced at his crew. They were pale, their eyes darting from him to the massive warship outside. The first officer whispered, "They could destroy us now." But Kareth already knew. If the humans wanted them dead, they would be vapor by now. The fact they were still breathing meant only one thing: humans were curious, and curiosity could be dangerous. "I will explain," Kareth said into the com. "But we request safe passage for our crew." The human voice did not change tone. "You will remain where you are. Power down your engines." Kareth hesitated. To obey was to surrender, but to refuse. He gave the order. The hum of the engines faded, and the Valari's Hope hung motionless in the dark. Through the viewport, the human warship shifted closer. Its size was overwhelming. Its bow alone could have swallowed Kareth's ship whole. Lights flickered along its hull, scanning them with invisible beams. Then, for the first time, Kareth saw movement, small black shapes launching from the warship's side. Dropships, they were coming aboard. Kareth's heart pounded in his chest. The stories were true. Humans didn't just defend their borders, they owned them, and anyone who entered without permission never returned. He just hoped they might be the first. The crew watched in silence as the dropships drew near. Magnetic clamps locked onto the hull with heavy thuds. The sound echoed through the Valari's Hope like a final heartbeat. A hiss of air came from the forward corridor as the boarding tunnel connected. The inner door lights turned red. Bootsteps echoed heavy. Deliberate, they were inside. The door opened, and the first human stepped through. Tall, armored in black plating, helmet hiding their face. The figure's visor glowed faintly blue. Behind them came more soldiers, each holding a weapon that hummed with quiet menace. The lead human raised a hand, and the voice from the cum returned. Only now it came from inside the helmet. "You've got one chance to convince us why you're here." Kareth knew this was it. One wrong word, and the Valari's Hope would become another silent ghost in human space. And in that moment, he realized they hadn't just entered Forbidden's territory. They had stepped into the jaws of the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. The warning shot. The humans wasted no time. Within moments of boarding, the alien crew had been gathered in the Valari's Hope's main hall. The humans moved with machine-like precision, their black armor glinting. Under the ship's lights, every weapon was pointed down. But Kareth could feel the threat in every step they took. He could not see their eyes, but he could feel their gaze measuring, judging, calculating. The lead human, the one who had spoken on the cum, stood in front of Kareth. Their voice came through the helmet speakers, calm but sharp. "You crossed into our space without permission. That means you either don't know the rules, or you don't care about living." The crew stiffened, none daring to breathe. Kareth raised his hand slowly. "We mean no harm," he said. "We came because—" The human cut him off. "I didn't ask for excuses, I asked for why. Before Kareth could answer, the human leader tilted their head slightly. "Commander," they said to someone behind them. "Show them." A soldier moved to the wall, tapped a small device on their arm, and the Valari's Hope's viewport shutter slid open. The alien crew gasped. Outside, the massive human warship shifted position. A deep hum vibrated through space, as if the void itself was waking. Then a beam of pure light burst from its side, fast, bright, and so powerful it lit up the surrounding emptiness like a miniature sun. The shot passed within a hair's breadth of the Valari's Hope's bow. Every screen in the hall flickered from the energy surge. The heat shimmered across the alien ship's hull. It wasn't a hit, it was a warning. "You see," the human leader said, their tone as calm as before. "If we wanted you gone, you'd be dust by now." Kareth's stomach twisted. This was not an idle threat. The shot had been close enough to melt their hull plating, and yet perfectly controlled. These humans had complete mastery over their weapons. The crew looked to Kareth. Desperate for him to speak, he forced himself to meet the human's gaze, or at least the dark visor where their eyes should be. "We came to speak to someone in authority," Kareth said. "There is a threat, one greater than you know." The human tilted their heads slightly, almost amused. "Every alien who trespasses says that," they replied. "It never ends well for them." One of the human soldiers stepped closer, their heavy boots echoing on the deck. They held out a device, a small black sphere that began to hum softly. The human leader spoke again. "This is a transponder. It will link your ship to ours, and if you try to run, we won't miss next time." The sphere clicked onto the Valari's Hope's control panel with a magnetic snap. Kareth knew they were now completely at the mercy of the humans. The human commander tapped their wrist control from the viewport. The alien crew watched in awe as the dreadnought outside turned slowly. Its sheer size made the stars seem small. Its engines burned with a cold blue light that felt more like the glare of a predator than the warmth of a sun. The human voice: "Return through the cum. Follow us." Kareth hesitated. "Where?" The human replied without hesitation. "To someone who might care about your so-called threat." The alien ship's engines powered up under human instruction. They moved into formation beside the dreadnought. Dwarfed by its size, Kareth couldn't help but notice the way the dreadnought kept its weapons angled toward them. not aggressive, but never letting them forget who held power. The journey was silent, the humans giving no unnecessary words. Only the steady escort through the unmarked depths of human space. Hours passed, the crew grew restless, their fear building with every light year. Every so often, a shadow would cross their path, a fleeting glimpse of other human ships, sleek and silent, watching from a distance. They were never hailed, never addressed. But Kareth could feel it. The humans were everywhere. Finally, the dreadnought slowed. Ahead lay a massive station, hanging in the void like a fortress carved from darkness. Its surface glowed with faint red lines, and dozens of smaller ships moved in tight patterns around it. This was no civilian hub. This was a military command center. The human commander's voice came over the com one last time. You will dock here. You will tell your story to someone far less patient than me. And if you lie, you will not leave this station alive. The com went silent. The docking clamps locked with a deep metallic thud. Kareth stood at the airlock, his crew behind him. They were about to step into the heart of human space, and he couldn't shake the thought. The warning shot had not been to scare them. It had been to remind them that they were still breathing only because the humans allowed it. The interrogation. The air inside the human station was cold and heavy. Kareth felt it the moment he stepped through the docking tunnel. It wasn't the temperature. It was the weight of the place. Everything was steel and shadow. Soldiers in black armor stood along the corridors, their faces hidden behind dark visors. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They simply watched. The alien crew was escorted through twisting passageways. The sound of their own footsteps echoed unnaturally loud. Kareth's mind raced. He had been in military installations before, but never one that felt this. Alive, every door they passed had security panels glowing with strange symbols. Every turn revealed more armed guards. It was as if the station itself was daring them to try something foolish. Finally, they reached a large room with walls of black metal. In the center stood a long table. Chairs lined one side. The opposite side was empty, except for a single chair, the one Kareth was clearly meant to take. Two human soldiers stood behind it, silent as statues. The leader from the dreadnought entered behind them, removing their helmet for the first time. The human's face was pale, with sharp lines that spoke of years of command. One eye was covered by a faint metallic implant. Glowing dimly, they sat down across from Kareth, resting their gloved hands on the table. "My name is Commander Halle," they said. "You will answer every question I ask, and you will answer truthfully. If I think you are lying, this conversation will end permanently." Kareth sat slowly, feeling the soldier's eyes on him. "I understand," he said, his voice tight. Halle studied him for a moment, then began. "Who sent you into human space?" "No one," Kareth replied. "We came on our own." Hale's eyebrow lifted slightly. "On your own? Through a guarded border? Without fear of being destroyed?" Kareth swallowed. "We had no choice. There is a threat coming, a warlord from another galaxy." Halle didn't move. "Name," they said simply. Kareth hesitated. "We call him Draxer." Halle typed the name into a small device on the table. No reaction, no visible sign of whether it meant anything to them. "Describe him," Halle ordered. Kareth leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Not a man, not exactly. His forces consume worlds. They leave nothing behind, not even the air to breathe. He has destroyed fleets stronger than mine before they could fire a shot." Hale's gaze was steady. "And you thought coming into our space would help you stop him?" Kareth nodded. "You have weapons no one else does. You have power no one dares challenge. If anyone can stand against him, it's the humans." Halle leaned back slightly. A faint smirk touched their lips. "But it was cold. Flattery doesn't work here." They said, "Give me proof." Kareth's stomach tightened. "All I have is this." He reached into a pouch and placed a small metal cube on the table. A hologram sprang to life, images of burning planets, shattered fleets, and the Monstrous outline of a ship so large it blotted out entire moons. The soldiers behind Hale shifted slightly, as if the sight had caught their attention. But Hale's expression did not change. They studied the images in silence. Finally, they spoke. "You want us to believe that this thing will come here?" "Yes," Kareth said. "And when it does, no border, no fortress will stop it." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Hale stood, walking slowly around the table until they were behind Kareth. "You entered our space uninvited," they said, their voice low. "That is a crime punishable by death. But—" Kareth's heart skipped at that word. "But if what you say is true, you have done us a favor, because now we know before it arrives." Hale walked back to their chair and sat. "I will take you to someone who decides wars," they said. "But understand this, if this is a trap, if this is a lie." Hale's eyes locked with Kareth's. "You won't live long enough to regret it." The door opened, and more soldiers entered. One handed Hale a data pad. They scanned it quickly and looked back at Kareth. "Your ship will remain here under guard," they said. "You will come with me to the Admiralty Hall." Kareth stood slowly, his mind torn between relief and fear. He had convinced them to listen. Now he only needed to survive their judgment. As they walked out, Kareth glanced once more at the hologram still hovering above the table. The image of Draxxer's flagship spun slowly, its dark hull covered in scars from battles it had never lost. He prayed silently that the humans truly were as powerful as their legends claimed, because if they weren't, the galaxy would soon belong to Draxxer. And from the way Commander Hale walked calm, certain, unshaken, Kareth wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, the warlord might finally meet something even worse than himself. The meeting Kareth had walked through many command centers in his life, but nothing compared to the Admiralty Hall of the humans. The chamber was massive, its walls lined with screens showing distant fleets, shifting tactical maps, and flashing alerts. The air felt charged, as if the whole place was ready to launch into battle at a moment's notice. Every step Kareth took echoed loudly, his boots striking the polished black floor. Human officers in dark uniforms glanced at him as he passed, their expressions unreadable, some curious, others suspicious, but none welcoming. Commander Hale walked ahead without slowing. Their pace was steady, as though they owned every inch of this place, which in a way they did. Kareth's crew had then left behind under guard. He was alone now, following Hale toward the far end of the hall. There, on a raised platform, stood a single man in a long coat trimmed with silver. His hair was gray at the temples, his face carved by years of command. But it was his eyes that held Kareth sharp, unblinking. The kind of eyes that could see through lies before they were spoken. Hale stopped at the base of the platform and saluted. "Admiral," they said. "This is Captain Kareth of the Valari's Hope, the one who crossed the border." The Admiral did not return the salute. He simply studied Kareth in silence. After a long moment, he spoke. "You have 5 minutes." Kareth's mouth felt dry. He stepped forward, forcing his voice to remain steady. "My people, my world, are in danger," he began. "There's a warlord coming from another galaxy, one who leaves only ash behind." The Admiral's expression did not change. "You crossed into human space to tell us this?" he asked. "Yes," Kareth said. "Because no one else can stop him." The Admiral turned slightly toward a screen. "Kareth, do you know why no one enters our space uninvited?" he asked. Kareth hesitated. "Because they don't come back?" The Admiral's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Correct," he said. "And yet, here you stand." Kareth reached into his pouch and produced the same cube he had shown Hale. The hologram flickered to life above the table beside the Admiral. Worlds burning, fleets shattered, the monstrous silhouette of Draxxer's flagship blotting out moons. The room grew quieter. Several human officers stopped what they were doing and stared at the image. Kareth took a breath. "This is what comes for you if you do nothing," he said, "and when he arrives, there will be no negotiation." The Admiral stepped closer to the hologram. His gaze swept over the images with slow precision. "How many systems has he taken?" he asked. Kareth swallowed. 17, he said. "Confirmed, maybe more." The Admiral's hand rested on the table, fingers tapping lightly. 17, he repeated. "That means he's fast," Kareth nodded quickly. "Faster than any fleet I've ever seen. He strikes without warning. His forces overwhelm defenses in hours, not days." The Admiral's gaze shifted to Halle. "What's your assessment?" he asked. Halle answered without hesitation. "He believes what he's saying," they said. "Whether it's true or not, I can't yet confirm." The Admiral turned back to Kareth. "If we take action, we do not do it halfway," he said. "When humans move, it is to end a war before it begins." Kareth felt a flicker of hope. "Then you will help?" he asked. The Admiral did not answer immediately. Instead, he pressed a control on his wrist. The walls around the platform shifted, revealing a vast viewport. Kareth's breath caught. Beyond the glass, hanging in silent formation, were ships, hundreds of them, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, all gleaming with black armor and glowing lines of blue energy. They stretched into the distance until they were lost in the darkness. "This," the Admiral said, "is only one fleet. One of 12. Kareth stared in disbelief. He had known humans were powerful, but this was something else. The Admiral's voice was calm. "If this Draxer comes for us, he will not leave. But before I commit my fleets, I will know everything about him." Kareth nodded quickly. "I will tell you everything I know," he said. The Admiral leaned forward slightly. "You will start now," he said. "And you will not lie, not once." His tone was not threatening, it was simply fact. But Kareth understood the truth behind it. If he gave even one false word, he would not leave this room alive. As the questioning began, Kareth felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. He had done what no alien had done in generations, crossed into human space, and stood before its highest commander. But whether he had just saved his people or doomed them depended entirely on what happened in the next few hours. And as the Admiral listened, silent and watchful, Kareth realized something else. Humans didn't just prepare for war, they lived for it. The demonstration, the Admiral stood without a word. His coat shifted slightly as he turned, and every officer in the room straightened. "Come with me," he said to Kareth. Halle fell in beside them, silent as ever. The walk through the station felt different now, not just guarded, but purposeful. Every human they passed stepped aside instantly, eyes following the Admiral with a mixture of respect and fear. They entered a long corridor that ended in a massive hangar bay. Through the force field barrier, Kareth saw ships moving, sleek human warships gliding into formation. Drones zipped between them like silver insects, carrying cargo and weapons. In the center of the bay floated a smaller vessel, though still larger than the Valari's Hope. Its armor was smooth, its weapons folded neatly against its sides. "This," the Admiral said, "is a Hunter-class cruiser. One of our fastest." Kareth hesitated. "Are we going somewhere?" The Admiral's voice was calm. "You want proof of what we can do? I'm going to give you a demonstration." Minutes later, Kareth found himself aboard the cruiser, seated in the observation deck beside Halle. The Admiral stood at the front, giving orders in short, clipped phrases. The crew moved with perfect precision, no wasted movements, no chatter. The ship's engines came to life with a deep, steady hum. Then the stars outside began to stretch. FTL engaged. When the distortion faded, they were no longer in the safety of human space. Ahead lay a dead system, its sun dim, its planets lifeless and scarred. Floating in the void were hundreds of broken ships, their hulls twisted and burned. Some still drifted with faint sparks of failing power. Kareth leaned forward. "What happened here?" The Admiral's tone didn't change. "This is what happens when someone crosses our border with hostile intent." Kareth stared at the wreckage. These weren't just small raiders. There were capital ships here, even carriers, all destroyed, all silent. The Admiral walked to the viewport, his hands clasped behind his back. "Every ship you see here fired first," he said. "And every ship you see here died for it." The cruiser moved deeper into the graveyard of metal. Kareth could see that some wrecks had massive holes burned straight through them clean. Precise strikes. Others were torn apart as if ripped by invisible claws. The Admiral glanced at Halle. "Ready the mark," he said. A young officer's voice came through the com. "Target locked." Kareth frowned. "Target?" The Admiral pointed toward a distant shape, an old, derelict battleship drifting at the edge of the field. Its hull was nearly intact, though covered in scars. "Observe," the Admiral said. The cruiser's weapons powered up with a low, resonating Kareth felt the vibration through the deck. Then a single shot of pale blue energy erupted from the cruiser's main gun. It wasn't loud, it was clean, almost silent. The battleship in the distance simply came apart. No explosion, no fire. One moment it was whole. The next it was a cloud of fragments scattering into space. Kareth's eyes widened. "That was one shot," he whispered. Hal's voice was flat. "That was a warning level shot." Kareth turned to the Admiral. "What's a full shot?" The Admiral looked at him for a long moment. "A full shot erases the target from history," he said. The cruiser began to turn, gliding past the wreckage once more. Kareth could feel the weight of the humans' message. This wasn't just firepower. It was control. They didn't fight to disable or to wound. They fought to end. The Admiral finally broke the silence. "You said this Draxer destroyed 17 systems." "Yes," Kareth said. The Admiral's gaze returned to the void outside. "Then when we go for him, we will not aim for 18. We will aim for 1. Kareth wasn't sure he understood. "1?" The Admiral's voice was cold and steady. "One strike, one day, one end. When humans move to war, we do not drag it out." The cruiser's engines roared softly as they prepared to jump back to the station. Kareth took one last look. At the graveyard, the message was clear: entering human space uninvited was not a gamble. It was a final act. The Admiral looked over his shoulder at Kareth. "You asked for our help," he said. "You will have it, but not as you expect. When we move, it will not be to defend your border. It will be to cross theirs." The jump drive engaged, and the graveyard of ships vanished, replaced by the deep black of human space. Kareth sat back, heart pounding. For the first time since he had fled his homeworld, he felt something other than fear. It wasn't exactly hope. It was the knowledge that if anyone could stand against Draxer, it was the Predators who had just shown him what they were capable of. The Hunter-class cruiser slipped back into the massive human station's docking bay. Metal arms reached out to guide it into place with smooth precision. The engines went silent, but the echo of the Admiral's demonstration still rang. In Kareth's mind, he had seen fleets fall, but never with such speed and control. It wasn't just power, it was certainty. Humans didn't fight to see who would win. They fought to make sure the enemy never had a second chance, Commander. Halle stood by the airlock, waiting as the docking clamps sealed. Kareth followed the Admiral into the station's main hall. 2 squads of soldiers fell in behind them, their boots thudding in perfect rhythm. The sound was a constant reminder. Everything in this place moved as one. Every human here was part of a single, unstoppable machine. They returned to the Admiralty Hall. The great screens flickered with images of fleets assembling. Kareth saw names in human script he couldn't read, but he could guess their meaning: battle groups, strike wings, carriers, destroyer escorts, all of them already preparing. He was not used to seeing a response this fast. In his own fleet, a war council would take weeks before deciding anything. Here, humans had begun mobilizing before the meeting was even over. The Admiral took his place at the command table. Halle stood beside him, arms folded. "You came into our space without permission." The Admiral began. "By our laws, we could have destroyed you and been within our rights." Kareth nodded slowly. "I know," he said, "but I hoped you would listen." The Admiral's gaze was cold. Listening and agreeing are not the same. Kareth reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a small silver data shard. "This Contains everything we know about Draxer, he said, placing it on the table. Star charts, fleet movements, weapon signatures, planetary assaults, every detail my people have collected. It is yours. The Admiral did not touch it. You're offering us your intelligence? Kareth met his gaze. I am offering you everything we have, my people. We cannot face him alone. And if he reaches your border, it will be too late for both of us. Silence stretched across the table. The Admiral's fingers drummed once on the surface before he leaned back. You're asking for protection, he said. Kareth's throat tightened. Yes. The Admiral's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. Protection? He repeated softly. No. Kareth's heart sank. But the Admiral's next words made him look up again. We do not protect by waiting, he said. We protect by ending threats before they become wars. If we take this pact, we will not sit at your borders with our guns pointed outward. We will cross his border instead, Kareth blinked. You would go to him? The Admiral's eyes hardened. We would go through him. Holly stepped forward, placing a small hollow projector on the table. It flickered to life, showing 12 massive fleet formations, each one larger than Kareth's. Entire navy. They are already moving, Holly said. Once the Admiralty confirms your intelligence, they will converge. Draxer will not have time to prepare. Kareth stared at the display, his mind struggling to process the scale. These fleets, this is all you have? Hale's lips twitched faintly. This is what we are showing you. The implication was clear. There was more, far more, hidden from his view. Kareth straightened. Then I will pledge my people's loyalty to the human fleets, he said. Firmly, our resources, our supply lines, our technology, anything you require will be yours. The Admiral studied him for a moment before giving a single nod. Then we have an understanding, he said. This is now your war as well as ours. The pact was sealed not with ceremony, but with orders. The Admiral turned to his aides. Send the call to the fleet admirals, he said. All formations to combat readiness. Operation last. Journey begins in 72 hours. Kareth didn't know the meaning of that operation name, but he felt its weight. It sounded like a promise and a warning. When humans named a war, they named it to be remembered. As the hall erupted into controlled activity, Kareth stepped back. He had come into this place fearing he might never leave. Now he was leaving with an alliance that could change the fate of the galaxy. But deep inside, he also felt a chill. The humans had agreed to fight Draxer, not out of kindness, but because he had entered their interest, and when humans took interest in a war, there was no mercy. The Admiral's voice cut through the noise one last time. Captain Kareth, he said, be ready to guide our spear to his heart. Kareth bowed his head. I will. And for the first time since his journey began, he believed they might actually win, or at the very least, make sure Draxer's last journey truly lived up to its name. The last journey 72 hours later, the void beyond the human station was alive with movement. Kareth stood on the observation deck, staring in awe at what had gathered from every shadow of space. Massive shapes emerged: dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, stealth cruisers. Their black armor drank the starlight, glowing only where blue energy veins traced their hulls. Each one carried the quiet promise of destruction. The humans did not shout orders. They did not roar before battle. They moved with calm discipline. Certainty. Fleet after fleet slid into perfect formation, as if choreographed by a single mind. From the largest warship to the smallest escort, they all aligned toward one target. The coordinates Kareth had given them. Commander Holly joined him. At the viewport, this is only what the Admiral allowed you to see, Holly said. Kareth could barely believe it. This isn't the full fleet? Hale's gaze stayed on the warships. The full fleet is never seen. In the command hall, the Admiral's voice carried over the fleet-wide channel. This is Operation Last Journey, he said. No retreat. No delay. We cross their border today, and when we leave, nothing will remain. The words rolled through Kareth like thunder. There was no hesitation in them, only finality. The jump order was given. One by one, the fleets vanished into streaks of light. The Valari's hope, now tethered to the human flagship for safety, followed. Kareth had traveled through FTL many times, but this felt different. It wasn't a journey, it was a spear being thrown across the stars. When the distortion faded, they were no longer in human space. They were deep inside Draxxur's territory. The enemy's defenses had no warning. One moment the void was empty. The next it was filled with human warships. Alarm signals flashed from distant stations. Ships scrambled from orbital docks. Kareth knew they were already too late. The first human strike came before the enemy could form a line. A wave of pale blue energy beams cut through their forward defenses like glass under a diamond blade. Enemy cruisers broke apart without even firing. Carriers burned in silence. Their fighters still locked inside. The humans advanced without slowing. It was not a battle, it was a clean, methodical dismantling from the human flagship's bridge. Kareth could see it all. Every fleet moved like the pieces of a single machine. Where one enemy group tried to flank, a human strike wing appeared out of nowhere to cut them down. Where Draxxur's ships massed together, dreadnoughts opened fire, with weapons that punched holes through entire formations. And always the humans kept moving forward. Hours passed. The enemy's resistance began to collapse. Still, Kareth's eyes searched the horizon for one ship, the dark, scarred behemoth of Draxxur's flagship. It appeared at last, looming at the edge of the battle like a storm cloud. Even among the chaos, its size and shape inspired fear. Kareth felt his chest tighten. "There," he said quietly, pointing. The Admiral didn't look away from the tactical display. "All ships, mark that target," he ordered. The human fleets shifted instantly, like wolves turning toward the alpha of their prey. Weapons locked. Engines roared. Draxxur's flagship began to fire, its massive cannons unleashing waves of destruction that tore through asteroids and smaller ships alike. But the humans didn't scatter, they closed in. Missiles and beams struck the flagship's shields, layer after layer burning away. Its return fire destroyed a human destroyer, then another. But every loss only made the humans press harder. Kareth gripped the railing, heart pounding. No one in the galaxy had ever fought Draxxur this way, without fear, without hesitation. Finally, the Admiral gave the order Kareth had been waiting for. All dreadnoughts, full strike. The flagship's main cannon lit with a blinding blue light. The beam that followed didn't just hit Draxxur's ship, it passed through it. For a brief moment, the massive vessel seemed frozen. Then it came apart, splitting cleanly in two. Its pieces drifted into the void, lifeless. The battle was over. The remaining enemy ships scattered, but the humans did not pursue. They had come for one purpose, and it was done. The Admiral's voice came over. "The come again. This war is over before it began," he said. "Return to formation, we are going home." Kareth exhaled slowly, his hands still trembling. He had seen wars end before, but never like this. The humans had crossed the border, struck at the heart, and erased the threat in a single day. He understood now why the galaxy feared them, why no one entered their space uninvited. As the fleets turned for the jump home, Halle glanced at Kareth. "Now you understand the name," they said. "Operation Last Journey." Kareth nodded. "Yes," he said quietly, "because for them, it truly was." The stars stretched once more as the human fleets vanished into the safety of their own space. Behind them, Draxxur's empire was nothing but silence and wreckage. And across the galaxy, whispers would begin again, whispers that reminded everyone of the one law no one dared break. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they're begging for their last journey.